I'm Khushbu Soni, host for the broadcast and chief editor at CIO News. This is our exclusive interview series with our digital innovators of India on the topic of digital innovation for the year 2022, an exclusive interview series powered by Rockwell Automation. This is a recorded session and will be available on our website, that is cionews.co.in, and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. It is my pleasure to invite our guest for today. We have Mr. Ramesh Rajagopalakrishnan, the Chief Information Officer from Grasim Industries from Chemical Division. Mr. Ramesh has 25 plus years of experience in the IT industry, leading global enterprise-wide programs, responsible for developing and implementing IT digital strategies. Mr. Ramesh has worked in multiple businesses of Aditya Birla Group across different countries. So it's a pleasure to have you today, and we're really looking forward to have this discussion with you and learn from your journey.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Khushbu, for a nice introduction.
I'm also accompanied by Mr. Arvind, the director at Rockwell Automation India. Mr. Alvin leads the end user, OEM, EPC, and industry business segments for Rockwell Automation in India and South Asia. He is responsible for executing the country's strategy to achieve sales for all the segments by industry vertical, regions, and business units. Alvin, pleasure to have you as well again.
Thanks for having me, Khushbu, and nice to talk to you and Mr. Ramesh.
Hey, good to meet you, Arvind.
Pleasure.
Awesome. So, so to begin with, I want to put across the first question to you, Mr. Ramesh. We are in this dynamic world of, earlier being work from home, then, moving to office, and then now again, it's kind of hybrid. So, wanted to understand, at Grasim Industries, what are the innovation that you have brought in for the continuity of business and the digital transformation strategies that you have embedded so that, the company has resilience as well as continuity?
Yeah, so I think specifically addressing the challenges of the current time which we are currently in, where you have to always ready for any change, right? We don't know how far the situation will remain like this, or there is another lockdown. So it's a difficult period which we are all going through as a business, and that's true for most of us. And so at the same time, we can't stop our cycle of innovation because of these distractions. So we need to ensure we turn these into opportunities for us to embrace new technologies, new tools which can help ensure our continuity and also how we can really thrive in this situation. So I think some of the key things to respond to this challenge of the current situation is embrace open innovation, right? So which needs to bring in diversity of a lot of thoughts, and which will bring in a lot of unconventional partnerships from different partners across the ecosystem, and which is essential to build our unique capabilities, right? And we need to build something which is unique for us, which will add value to our products and services, right? And last but not the least, how we can really upskill our people, improve the quality of our talent, and also attract quality digital talent. These are some of the things which are essential to for us to thrive in this challenging situation.
Right. Awesome. And what is the vision like, in terms of driving your digital transformation journey? What are the top few technologies, you see in the roadmap for Grasim Industries?
Yeah, so when we talk about digital vision, the essence of it, the way we see is it's core to our strategy and operations, right? It is not it's just an enabler anymore, right? That's how we see it. And it provides a big picture and describes the direction of change, so that there is a complete alignment of people at all levels. That's what this vision should be providing. And some of the key elements of this will be first and foremost, the customer experience, right? And this should, in the journey of a customer, there will be various stages, right, which we'll be having. And this should be addressing, key, points of those different points of the customer journey, and it should improve his experience overall at various stages, right? And the second is operational excellence. And it's not about just being efficient anymore. It should be agile, which is much more critical than just being efficient. Efficient, yes, it's given, but how agile are we, to respond to the, dynamically changing situations, right? Now that's a key part of it. And also the workforce enablement, right? So digital customers, digital products, it doesn't work, if the employee themselves are not having the similar kind of experience in their own processes that we work internally. So that's how, how we can really enable the workforce to, leverage this, how we can upskill them, how we can enable them to collaborate, work from anywhere, right? Those things are there. And of course, this all has to be, supported by a, very solid, technology platform, which is modern, capable of the changing needs of a digitally transformed process, right? So this can't really be holding us back. And and when we talk about, specifically technologies which will help us achieve this vision, I think advanced analytics, aided by AI, it's going to be critical, both for our manufacturing processes, how we can transform them, how we can really, leverage the wealth of data which we have, which we collect from, various sources of how we are, process controls are put in place, and also IoT, which can really, be an additional, layer of, data collection over and above the DCS and the PLC systems we already have in managing our processes. How it can really help us, plug the gaps where we don't have data about, specific process parts. That's where the IoT will come in place. Yeah. And the third one will be AR and VR right now. How it can really help us, collaborate remotely. Right. How, this can really, help us overcome the disruptions of, changes which we are seeing. Where, we see sudden, restrictions on people moving around. So how we can really overcome those. So that's where we see AR, we are playing a key part in, enabling remote collaboration, technical assistance, and of course, RPA also, plays some role in, automating some of the, process elements that we see. These are some of the few technologies which we feel, at least for in our context, can help us, achieve this vision of data.
I'm sure, while there are challenges as well that as we face during the implementation or evaluation process of technologies at this level. So, what are the top few challenges that you identify, as a CIO when looking at this vision of a digital transformation or being in the journey of transformation? What are the top few challenges that you foresee?
Yeah, so there are some 3-4 key, elements, which is, essential for us to succeed in this vision right now. We call it as a key success factors. I think the first and foremost will be the leadership commitment. Right? And the leader should be encouraging the team to challenge the status quo. Right. So that's the most important one, and we should, encourage people to innovate, and we should be ready to accept failures. Right. Because we need to try a lot of things right now, and not that everything will work. So that message should be clear to the team. That should not be holding them back. Expecting that whatever I'm going to try will it work. That should not hold us back. We should encourage them to challenge the status quo, try out new things, innovate, and so that's the part of the leadership which plays. Showing their commitment in encouraging the people. And second is, how do we align the technology interventions to add value to our products? What do we produce? How do we service our customers? And it should not look like just an implementation of technical tools or technologies right now. I think the underlying message should be always the clarity should be there. What are the value which I'm going to add to our products, services, experience of the customers, and that's how that alignment should be there. And then, the underlying technology is what we talked about, and that's all going to support this, the journey of, realizing that, values. And of course, to have a clear, data strategy, right, which will really help us unlock the value, for example, there is so much data which we collect and maintain right now. People sometimes may not even know that, what the wealth of data which we have, to have a clear strategy to, to collect, maintain, provide visibility of this data, to manage the whole life cycle of the data. Right now, the clear data strategy is also another key element of, realizing this, digital vision, because it's all about data. When we talk about digital, it's all about data right now. It's like, so it's having a clear roadmap of how do we really manage this, data strategy, and also empowered and digitally skilled teams, right? It includes both upskilling our people, making them aware what's going on, and involving them in projects, and also how do we really empower the digitally, skilled talent. These are the key elements for us to succeed in our, digital vision.
Right. Awesome. Arvind, your thoughts, some of the very important points shared by Mr. Ramesh, your thoughts on the vision, firstly, that Ramesh talked about, and also the challenges around achieving the vision of the transformation. So, over to you.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, Khushbu, sorry to interrupt. I just also wanted to add one more thing, in this, success factors on the execution front right now. I think we need to be really nimble and adaptable right now. We can't be going with a very rigid approach of, I put this plan in place and we'll just execute right now. We should be really nimble and adaptable for the changing scenario situations. That's also another key element which we have, understood and, trying to address.
Okay. Yeah. So, I think Mr. Ramesh brought in very critical points, and I agree with a lot of them. Just wanted to add a little bit of flavor there. If you, and to your point, Khushbu, on challenges, what we're trying to solve. I think from a digital strategy point of view, what Mr. Ramesh was also saying, evaluate the business case first, because that is likely going to be, be more successful rather than evaluating from a technology point of view, because technology is very complex and too many things, right? Unless it gives you value for the business, that road is not going to be easy. That path is not going to be easy in the future, Now, another point he brought was around data. A lot of data is there, but what do you do with that data finally? I think it again is very critical to bring in those use cases, specific use cases, and see, where the applicability could be, and also in terms of people, say we typically have those kind of issues related to workforce, and which could be solved by digital strategies or deploying some of them, and see what exactly makes sense. Now, if I look at chemical as an industry, like it's a secondary industry as such, and a lot of this goes into some other primary industries that they sell, so there is huge global demand of products, and with that growth comes the new business challenges and demands also, to the point that you were making. So typically you have volatility in the cost of feedstock. There's a lot of regulatory environment, complex regulatory environment, and also aging infrastructure. First of all, you need to have platform to connect all of the digital devices, that have to be integrated, from a connected machine to a connected factory to next level, and to a connected enterprise, at the larger enterprise level with a company like Grasim, right? So wherein, the platform has to be there at the basic level, and then you can make sense out of the data, and you got to necessarily deploy, the technologies that would be useful. I would say review of process control systems is very critical. I think he brought in that point also, upgrading some of those legacy systems, because if you don't have data to measure, what you're trying to measure, it ultimately will result in shortfall in terms of performance or expectations. Now, in short, I think there has to be evaluation of, comprehensive digital transformation for manufacturing. And also, I think in some cases, what happens is you can adopt best practices coming from different areas, which some other people could be adopting. There could be an approach around consultancy, implementation, managed services, just looking at the digital readiness side of it and building a business case to implementing and integrating technologies and sustaining the change ultimately. I think some of these things are really critical. And if you look at some of the larger objectives, other than some of them with respect to the larger digital strategy deployment, etc., but increasing asset utilization is very critical. Optimizing asset utilization actually begins with being able to measure the asset performance and identifying the production problems in real time. Improving operations flexibility is another big thing for chemical industry as such. It reduces the batch to batch variability that causes quality and throughput issues. Those things are also important. And then safety, operational, regulatory, etc. That risk reduction is also very critical. And there's a huge element of I would say now sustainability and also ESG that is come into play. Some of those things can also be deployed for reducing your emissions, reducing your energy wastage, reducing your water treatment wastage, waste management, all those kind of things. I think those are really critical things, that would be really useful and should be, strongly kind of looked at.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My next question is around the security aspect, right? While we are on the journey of transformation, security transformation has become the key parameter for all the CIOs and CISOs as well. So, Ramesh, my question is from a security transformation perspective, what are the top, 3 areas that you are looking at, in the next year, in the coming year, in terms of transformation of a security landscape?
Yeah, so, as rightly pointed out by Arvind, for us in this, chemical industry, the lot of value is there in our manufacturing operations. That's where we'll be able to bring in a lot of inefficiencies, and also you touched about the point of safety, which is most critical for us right now. We are running our operations which are very, very safety critical. So that's an area where we'll be using technologies like EIPR to help us ensure how we are able to reduce overall our hazardous work, right? Which in itself will be improving the security portion of us. How we can use things like video analytics to kick.
Yeah, so let me talk about a couple of aspects. One is the IT/OT integration, which is very critical, and I'll elaborate that a little bit. And then second aspect would be cybersecurity. I think those are the real security aspects, that possibly have to be addressed, and possibly the biggest things, the convergence of software and machinery in production environments is ushering in a new era of connected operations, which enhances efficiency, and it's an opportunity for better decision making across whole manufacturing and production processes as such. Now, connecting the process control, measurement, and safety systems at a production side with IT infrastructure and applications enables remote connectivity for a highly valuable real-time data and remote support. We talked about that in terms of the value of data, but this has been very hard to achieve, because of rugged, dislocated, and often remote nature of the operations. Typically, people would want to kind of look at a lot of those things which give you big enablement of these informational technology and operations technology, integration processes. And it would be critical to say identify and align critical assets, consider the entire value chain or supply value chain, fill in the security gap, look at aspects of both IT and OT from that perspective. Set up for third-party integration and also enabling some of the edge capabilities. Now, if I look at cybersecurity aspect of it, I think straight away from risk awareness point of view to creating a security culture and deploying reliable security access control for insider threats, I think those are things critical. But the biggest possibly thing for us where there has been less attention or it's more critical to kind of deploy because those have been typically neglected areas would be to develop an overall OT cybersecurity program. This is for the whole manufacturing environment and also look at adopting industry framework, understanding the business drivers and risk tolerances, to drive target profiles, and see also conduct those assessments of your assets and to understand the gaps and probably develop a risk mitigation plan based on that. And also look at what is happening in the industry in general and look at partners who would be willing to participate in that development, with the companies like Grasim. So I think it's very critical to look at those aspects in my view.
Great, wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Ramesh and Mr. Arvind, for taking out time and joining us today on this episode of CIO News. My one last question before we end the episode: any piece of advice that you would like to share with CIOs, on the topic of transformation? If we talk about acceleration, we know organizations are already in the journey of digital transformation. A lot of large enterprises have reached the completion of that journey, and there are organizations who are in the journey. So any piece of advice that you would like to share, that would be a great closing point.
Yeah, sure, Khushbu. See this, the period of COVID induced distractions or disruptions which we have gone through. It's been a tough phase. But we see also a positive outcome of this phase right now, which was an opportunity for us. That's it has really speeded up adoption of a lot of digital tools, technologies, and also the openness for change. In a typical change curve, I think it has really moved us from the information to the acceptance phase. The usual resistance stuff which we have seen, that was kind of completely taken out of the equation because of the force right now, which was there for us to continue the operation with an unexpected change, right? So that was a positive impact, which has really created a level of acceptance across the levels, which we'll be able to now leverage for further our digitalization of the processes, right? And that's a positive aspect which we should really take and move fast now with our digital journey of transforming in many other processes. A lot of things don't have to be really kind of explained to the people, and their acceptance has really gone up. That's one positive aspect which we see, and I think we should take this forward and leverage this for our advantage.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a piece of advice from you.
I think we covered a lot of things. I think it starts from basic kind of having integration in place, from a connected worker to a connected cell to a connected machine to a connected enterprise, finally. So I think that is critical. Having measurements in place, having all data connectivity in place is critical. I think looking at business cases is very important. Looking at use cases, which would be deployable, executable, and which would give a good return of investment. I think that is very critical for identification. And I know it varies from company to company. There are companies who are much more advanced in that point of view, but some of them are still in the early stages. So it varies. What companies want to look at, and I think they should focus on something which is of importance to them, which means a lot to them from a gap understanding perspective, and which gives them a big business benefit ultimately. That is what they're trying to achieve. And also at the same point of time, look at the whole smart manufacturing assessment, look at the IT/OT integration, look at the security, gaps or assessments overall, and that gives a good platform, and then take it up beyond, to larger, say, manufacturing operations, softwares, or advanced analytics. I think those are critical, but also they have been easily deployable and relatively cost-effective technologies related to AR, VR, which are more related to a connected workforce or making that job easy and operational and safe. That are nowadays being deployed across various industries. I think there are those elements also, that should be brought in, and that overall helps in the assessment related to what should be done across the industry, and also a big element around the savings related to energy and waste management, and overall contributing to the sustainability goals. Chemicals is one of the more focused industries from that point of view. I think those will be really important kind of aspects from my point of view to look at.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much once again for joining on this platform, and I'm sure there are key takeaways for our viewers. Thank you, and I look forward to having future discussions with you. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, Khushbu.
Thank you, Ramesh. Nice talking to you.
Nice. Thanks, Arvind.